The January transfer window has arrived once again, and with it comes that familiar knot in the stomach for Celtic supporters who are desperately trying to work out whether this squad will actually be given the tools it needs to fight properly for the league title. There is a sense of unease hanging over the fan base just now, a feeling that time is ticking and that the margin for error is getting smaller with every passing day. Rumors are swirling, questions are piling up, and there is still no clear sign that the club are about to act with the urgency many believe is required. It feels like a moment that could define the season for better or for worse. One piece of business that has already been wrapped up quietly and without much ceremony is the departure of Shin Yamada. His move away from the club on loan until the end of the season almost slipped under the radar, which in itself says a lot about how little impact his time at Celtic really had. He now heads to Germany to play his football in the second tier, joining a side who are currently locked in a relegation battle and fighting simply to stay afloat. For a player who arrived with some level of intrigue, it is hard to ignore how underwhelming the entire spell turned out to be. Yamada's Celtic career never truly got going. His appearances were few and far between, and when chances did come his way, they failed to leave any lasting impression. 12 outings without finding the back of the net is a statistic that paints a fairly blunt picture, and it makes the decision to loan him out feel less like a tactical move and more like an admission that this particular signing has not worked. There is no joy in saying that because on a personal level, you always want players to succeed when they pull on the green and white. But football at this level is unforgiving and sentiment can only stretch so far. What makes this situation more frustrating for supporters is the wider context around how Yamada ended up at the club in the first place. From very early on, it was made clear that he was not viewed as a key part of the manager's plans, and that alone raised serious questions about the recruitment process. When a player is brought in without the full backing of the coaching staff, the odds are already stacked against him. Over time, as he drifted further from the matchday squads, it became increasingly obvious that this was another example of a signing that did not align with what the team actually needed. This is not about pointing the finger at the player himself. By all accounts, Yamada worked hard and carried himself professionally, and there is genuine hope that his loan spell abroad gives him the platform to rebuild confidence and rediscover some form. Sometimes a change of scenery can do wonders, especially for a player who never quite managed to settle. Still, from a Celtic perspective, it is difficult to escape the feeling that this move simply highlights ongoing issues with the club's transfer strategy. When you look at the pattern over recent seasons, this is far from an isolated case. Players arrive, struggle to make an impact, and are then moved on quietly, often within a relatively short space of time. It creates a cycle where the squad never quite feels settled, and where depth on paper does not always translate into genuine options on the pitch. For a club with ambitions of dominating domestically and competing credibly in Europe, that is a worrying trend. The timing of Yamada's loan also adds another layer of concern. By allowing one of the few available forward options to leave, Celtic have effectively thinned their attacking depth even further. Injuries and fitness issues have already taken their toll this season, and removing another body from the equation feels like a gamble. It naturally leads supporters to ask whether this decision signals that a new striker is on the way, or whether the squad is simply being stretched to its limits once again. At the moment, the attacking options look alarmingly light. There are players who can fill in, but questions remain about consistency, fitness, and overall quality at this level. Relying on the same small group week after week is risky, especially as the schedule intensifies and the pressure ramps up. One untimely injury or dip in form could leave the team scrambling, and that is not a position any title-chasing side wants to find itself in. This is why the rumors linking Celtic with a high-profile striker have sparked such intense debate among fans. On the one hand, there is excitement at the idea of the club targeting a forward who has proven himself on a bigger stage, someone who scores goals regularly and thrives under pressure. On the other hand, there is deep skepticism rooted in past experience where promising links have ultimately led nowhere. The name being discussed has certainly caught attention across the fan base. A striker performing at a high level in European competition, delivering goals against elite opposition, is exactly the kind of profile many feel Celtic should be pursuing. His record speaks for itself, with consistent contributions season after season, and his age suggests he is right in his prime. This is not a project signing or a gamble on potential, but a player who has already shown he can deliver. Naturally, the financial side of such a deal looms large. A player of this caliber would not come cheap, especially with a long-term contract and interest from clubs across the continent. That reality is what makes many supporters cautious about getting carried away. Celtic have often been reluctant to push the boat out when it comes to transfer fees, preferring structured deals or loans with options attached. Whether the club are willing to break from that pattern remains to be seen. Still, there is a growing sense that this is the kind of moment where boldness is required. The squad needs quality, not just numbers, and investing in a proven goalscorer could transform the season. Goals change games, and games change titles. If Celtic are serious about maintaining their dominance and responding to the challenges around them, then this is the sort of signing that sends a message to everyone inside and outside the club. For now, everything remains up in the air. The loan exit has happened, the rumors are circulating, and supporters are left waiting for clarity. The clock is ticking on the transfer window, and each day without movement only amplifies the anxiety. Whether this period becomes a turning point or another missed opportunity will depend entirely on what happens next. And the choices made in the coming days will resonate far beyond this single window. The uncertainty surrounding this potential move only grows when you start to measure it against what Celtic have actually done in recent windows, rather than what supporters hope they might do. There is a clear disconnect between ambition in words and ambition in action, and that gap has been exposed time and time again. Fans are not asking for reckless spending or blind gambles, but they are demanding a sense of intent that matches the size and stature of the club. When rumors of a striker with genuine European pedigree surface, the natural reaction is excitement mixed with disbelief, because history tells us these deals rarely materialize. What makes this particular situation so frustrating is the context of the season itself. Celtic are not miles ahead, cruising towards another title without resistance. This is a campaign where margins are tight, performances have been inconsistent, and the squad has often looked short of solutions when games become difficult. In that environment, adding real quality in January is not a luxury, it is a necessity. Waiting until the summer or settling for stopgap options feels like tempting fate, especially when rivals are sensing vulnerability. The striker being linked fits almost every box supporters have been crying out for. He is battle-tested, used to carrying responsibility, and has shown he can perform under the brightest lights. Scoring against elite opposition in European competition is no small feat, and it is the kind of pedigree that instantly commands respect in the dressing room. Players like that raise standards simply by being there, and that influence can be just as important as goals themselves. There is also the wider point about squad building and sustainability. Bringing in players who are entering or already in their prime is an investment, not just a cost. If a signing delivers on the pitch, contributes to trophies, and enhances European performances, their value holds or even increases. This idea that spending serious money is inherently risky ignores the far greater risk of standing still while others move forward. Football does not reward caution forever. Supporters have grown weary of seeing short-term fixes and loan deals presented as solutions to long-standing problems. Loans can be useful tools, but they should complement a strong core, not compensate for a lack of ambition. When a striker arrives on a temporary basis, knowing he may not be part of the club's future, it limits continuity and long-term planning. Fans want to see players who are clearly being trusted to lead the line for seasons to come, not just patch holes for a few months. This is why the ongoing reliance on loans and low-risk signings has become such a sticking point. It creates a squad that always feels half-finished, as if it is waiting for something else to fall into place. Meanwhile, the pressure on existing players intensifies because there is little genuine competition pushing them from behind. Over the course of a long season, that imbalance can prove costly. There is also an emotional element to all of this that cannot be ignored. Celtic supporters invest so much of themselves into the club, following every game, every rumour, every decision. When they see a clear need not being addressed, frustration builds quickly. It is not about entitlement, but about expectation. And those expectations are rooted in the club's history and resources. Celtic are not operating from a position of weakness, and fans know it. Comparisons with other clubs inevitably creep in when teams of similar or even smaller stature show a willingness to back their managers and take calculated risks. It begs the question of why Celtic so often hesitate. European qualification brings revenue, success brings momentum, and momentum attracts better players. It is a cycle that requires an initial leap of faith, something the club appear reluctant to take. As the window edges closer to its conclusion, the sense of urgency should be impossible to ignore. Training sessions and internal assessments can only reveal so much. The evidence is already there in matches played, points dropped, and games where the lack of cutting edge has been painfully obvious. A single signing may not solve every issue, but the right signing can change the trajectory of a season. The looming competition from other clubs only adds to the pressure. If Celtic truly are interested in this striker, they cannot afford to move slowly or tentatively. Hesitation is often punished in the transfer market, and players of this profile will not wait indefinitely. Clear intent, decisive action, and a willingness to meet realistic demands are essential if there is any hope of getting a deal over the line. There is also a symbolic aspect to consider. Making a statement signing in January would signal belief in the squad, belief in the manager, and belief in the season itself. It would tell supporters that the club recognizes the challenges ahead and is prepared to meet them head-on. That kind of message can re-energize a fan base and create a sense of momentum heading into the crucial months. For now, though, everything remains balanced on a knife edge. The rumors continue to circulate, the speculation grows louder, and supporters are left dissecting every snippet of information for clues. Whether this window becomes a moment of transformation or another chapter of frustration will depend entirely on the decisions made behind closed doors, and the consequences of those decisions will be felt long after the window slams shut. Before we proceed, subscribe to our channel and enable notifications to receive all exclusive news about Celtic FC. Don't miss any details about your favorite team. It's extremely important for Celtic FC fans. A low murmur has been doing the rounds among the travelling support and the press benches alike. The kind of story that starts as a glance and grows legs by half-time. The claim, unconfirmed and firmly in the realm of rumour, is that Callum McGregor found himself stepping into the line of fire to calm a storm brewing on the Celtic touchline, with emotions said to be running hot and a young player caught in the middle. The talk is that Martin O'Neill, a manager never shy of demanding standards, was so unhappy with the display that he contemplated an extraordinary act, pulling the plug on a promising youngster there and then. Not a substitution, mind you, but a dismissal that would have followed the lad down the tunnel before the game had found its rhythm. Those close enough swear the air went heavy, that voices were raised, and that the captain sensed the danger before it spilled over. McGregor, by all accounts, played the role he has grown into, the steadying influence who knows when to bark and when to soothe. Some even whisper that the captain's eyes glistened as he pleaded for sense, reminding the gaffer of the weight such a moment could place on young shoulders. Whether tears were actually shed is anyone's guess, but the image has stuck, a symbol of a skipper carrying more than an armband. Celtic have long prided themselves on backing youth, and the idea of a public axe mid-game jars with that self-image. That is why this tale has bite. Was it a genuine flashpoint, or the sort of exaggerated yarn that blooms when tension meets expectation? No one is putting their name to it, and the club will say naught, but the rumour speaks to a wider truth. Pressure at this level can turn a touchline into a crucible, for the young player at the heart of it, the lesson may already be learned. For McGregor, if the whispers are to be believed, it was another reminder that leadership sometimes means stepping between fire and flesh, even when your own voice shakes. Aye, football can be cruel, and even captains are human. Hello, captains. Fan, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, as it means a lot to Celtic FC. Also, share your opinion about the news in the comments below. See you in the next video.